What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to another WNBA video. We have ourselves a three-game slate to dive into for Sunday, July 6th. So we're going to break down and analyze each of those games. I'm going to talk about which way that I'm leaning as far as the points and the spread. And then when it's all said and done, make sure you check down there into the pin comment. You'll find a link down there that'll send you over to the Guy Boston Sports website. That's where you're going to find all of my final plays for these games listed for free. Now, typically right here, we would jump over there to the website, recap our plays from the previous video, but I am recording this one before those games tip off, so we will recap those plays along with whatever we take here in this video in tomorrow night's video. So let's not waste any more time, guys. Smash that like button down there for me and hit subscribe if you have not already. Let's dive right into the mix. We got a 1 p.m. tip-off time for our first game. Going to be the Seattle Storm taking on the New York Liberty. New York laying 5.5 with this one, with a total sitting at 166.5. Both these teams are coming into this game off of a win their last time out. It's also going to be the second head-to-head meeting between these two on the year. The Storm took the first one in Seattle, 89-79. Seattle coming into this one at 11-7 straight up, 10-8 to the number, while the Liberty sit at 12-5 outright, but just 6-10 with one push against the spread. The thing with these Liberty, man, is they just have not been able to cover the line, especially here of late. They've gone 8 in a row now without covering. The Storm, they're just 5-4 straight up, but 6-3 to the number when on the road this season. The Liberty, they are still without Jonquel Jones, out with that ankle injury. Seattle does come into this one pretty much healthy, right? No new injuries to report. Both these teams, they have been inconsistent these last couple weeks. We've seen the Storm alternate wins with losses in their last four. The Liberty, they've lost 4 of their last 6. Over the last 5 games, we've seen both these teams slip for offensive, defensive, and net rating. The Liberty are sitting at 7th, 10th, and 10th, respectively, while the Storm sit at 9th, 8th, and 8th. Now, Liberty have been a better team when at home, though. They are 5-4 on the road. They're 7-1 at Barclays, and man, they've won in convincing fashion with an average margin of victory of a little over 18 points per game in those 7 home wins. Now, that number is slightly inflated, right? We do got to keep in mind that 48-point massacre that they put down on the Connecticut Sun earlier in the season, right? That is included in those 7 wins. But even still, they've won 5 of those 7 games by double digits, right? So even if you take that out of the mix, it's not like they're like struggling at home by any means. They're a different kind of beast at home for sure. Liberty have the top rated offense in the W1 playing in New York this year, and they are also sitting at second for defensive and net rating at home. On the road this season, the Storm sit at just 8th for offensive rating, but they do jump up to second for defensive rating. They are 6th for overall net rating. And Seattle is scoring the 3rd most points from the paint while hitting at the 3rd highest shooting percentage from inside the restricted area, and they are converting the 3rd most field goals from outside of the restricted area. New York is holding opponents to the 4th lowest shooting percentage from inside that restricted area and the 3rd lowest outside of that restricted zone. They are a middle of the pack 7th, though, in terms of points allowed from the paint, but at home, they are giving up the 3rd fewest. Both these teams love to get out on the break too, man. New York leads the W in fast break points, Seattle right behind them at second, but defensively, the Liberty are holding opponents to the 2nd fewest such points, while the Storm sit at 7th. Both these teams have forced a lot of turnovers as well this season, man. Seattle sitting at 2nd, New York at 4th, but each have been efficient with the ball on their end. New York just coughing it up at the 4th lowest rate, the Storm at the 2nd lowest. Teams are shooting at the 3rd lowest percentage from the field against the New York Liberty. The Storm sit at 8th for 3-point shooting and overall field goal shooting percentage allowed. The Liberty do still lead the league in scoring, man, hitting the 2nd most threes at the 2nd highest shooting percentage when playing at home as well. Sabrina was out for that first head-to-head matchup between these two, as well as Leone Fibic, as well as Jonquel Jones. And while the Liberty aren't at full strength yet, they are still missing that rim protection and an additional floor spacing on the other end with JJ still out. I am leaning New York at home, man. They got Fibic back. They got Sabrina back. They're home. It's a revenge spot for them. This just feels like a get-right spot, man. Get a good win over a good team and get things rolling right with Jonquel out. And when she comes back, they just really take off. So that's kind of how I see this thing playing out here for this one. With that said, though, they got to find a way to contain Neko Ogamike, right? Better than they did that first game out there, man. That'll be a challenge without JJ out there for sure. But the return of Fibic helps not only in that aspect, but it's also going to provide spacing on the other end, man. And with Ionescu back in the mix as well, I think New York has enough firepower to get it done here. For the total, these two went up and over the number in their first meeting this year and have been over teams so far this year, right? They've combined to go over in 21 of the 35 games that they've played this season. The Storm have hit to the over in 6 of their last 7, the Liberty in 6 of their last 8. Seattle sits at 7th for pace and just 10th when on the road. And they do have that second-ranked defense when on the road as well. So we do got to keep that in mind, right? This is one of those ones where it's like all the numbers are screaming over, but there's that little tidbit right there. And I think those are those little tidbits that maybe, me personally, maybe that's what I've been missing, right? Because you'll see all these stats and data supporting an over. and they just come out playing at snail pace. So trying to look at every aspect, every angle, every way that we can see it right now because the WNBA been wild, man, just been wild. Uh, and in that regards, man, I do appreciate the support that I got down there in the comments, man. You're always gonna have your few haters out there, but mostly it's always love over here at Guy Boston, and I appreciate all of y'all, man, because yeah, it's been frustrating. It's been frustrating these last couple weeks, man. I'm not used to struggling this bad in the WNBA. Like this is the area where I really have a good time, and it's always fun. Ain't been fun these last couple weeks, but it's always fun making these videos. I will say that, man. I have a blast doing that. So win or lose, I'm gonna keep coming back. Somebody was like, "Why do you keep making these videos?" Man, I'm gonna be here every day. Winner, I can go 100. I'm gonna be back tomorrow, man. Anyways, though, getting off topic here. Back to the total here. New York sits at first for pace this season. They are second for effective field goal percentage, first for true shooting percentage. They lead the league in scoring. So it's hard to look at an under with them involved, man. I'm gonna lean over, but I'm not sure I get there with that number where it is. Low 160s, I'm smashing it. Mid to high 160s, I'm leery, right? Because of what we just talked about. So let's go ahead and dive into our next game, guys. 4 p.m. tip-off time. Aces taking on the Sun. Aces 16.5 point favorites. Total sitting at 157.5. Ah, we'll have the Sun back home here after a 4 game road trip, and they'll bring a 4 day rest advantage into this one over my arch nemesis, the Las Vegas Aces. Man, yeah, if you've watched these videos, you know how I feel about these Aces, right? And they just burned me again here recently, so no, I don't like this game, guys. I'll just be completely honest with you. I don't like anything about this game, but we will still dive into it, right? Connecticut has lost 9 straight on their way to a 2-15 record. They've gone 7-10 to the number and covered in only one of their last four. The Aces have won just 3 of their last 8 after an impressive win over a surging Mercury team. They followed that up by getting absolutely smoked by a Fever team in a game that we backed them, in a game that the Fever didn't have Caitlin Clark. Vegas is just 8-9 straight up. They are 6-9 to the number. Gustafsson of the Aces is a game time decision again here in this one. She has not made her debut yet this year. She's been a game time decision a handful of times up until this point. So until we see her out there on the court, I'm not really taking much, consideration into that game time decision tag. And then on the Connecticut side, Marina Mabrey remains out with that knee injury, just further, hurting this team and their lack of offensive firepower to begin with. You take away their best scorer, so yeah, just an ugly matchup in my opinion. This is the third match between these two this season, with the Aces winning each of those first two by double digits, a 25-point win in Connecticut and a 26-point win in Vegas. The Aces are hitting the fewest shots from inside the restricted area this season, but the Sun are giving up the most. Vegas hits the most shots in the paint from outside the restricted area, but Connecticut gives up the second fewest. Sun are hitting shots from the mid-range at the highest rate in the W. The Aces are giving up the fourth most shots from that zone. The Aces also rely heavily on the outside shot, though, despite having the best center in the game. You know what I mean? They score the third highest in the W percentage of their points from three-point range and are hitting the fifth most threes, sitting at sixth for shooting percentage from deep. Connecticut gives up the fifth most threes at the third highest shooting percentage. Now, I can't find any real advantages here for Connecticut, but I could really honestly say the same for Vegas here as well. The Sun just simply aren't a good team, man. And despite winning by 25 plus in the two head-to-heads this season, I can't and I will most definitely not be laying 16.5 points with the Aces now, tomorrow, next year, forever. This is one of those spots that the Aces should absolutely smoke the Sun, right? They should. And they probably will as long as I don't bet on them. So we'll just leave it at that, right, guys? So looking at the total, neither of these teams, they're playing with a ton of pace. The Aces are sitting middle of the pack, and the Suns sit at second from last in that regard. They landed well below the number in their two prior meetings this season, and they have in the last four straight between these two as well. Vegas has hit to the under in 4 of their last 5, and they should dictate how this game is played as the better overall unit. They should. Um, we'll see if that's how it plays out. I'll lean under, man, but most likely I don't even make eye contact with this game on any of my sports books, guys. Just steering completely clear of the Aces, man. I'm not touching anything here, but if I had to pick, I would lean Aces here and I would lean under. Then for our last game on the evening, we have a 7 p.m. tip-off time, and I gotta say, man, good job, WNBA. Look at you spacing those games out, man. 3 games on a Sunday, and we can watch all 3 of them: 1 p.m., 4 p.m., and 7 p.m. Thank you, thank you. Unlike that other night, Friday night where we had 5 games tipping off, in between 7 and 8 p.m., 5 different games. Like this is good, man. This is good. But it's going to be the Chicago Sky taking on the Minnesota Lynx. Lynx are laying 14.5 at this one. Total sitting at 159.5. I am recording this one before Saturday night's game with the Valkyrie, right? So keep that in mind as we look into this data that the Lynx are playing the Valkyries on Saturday night. So some of these numbers may shift slightly after Saturday night's games, but it's nothing that's going to throw off the read on this one here, in my opinion. So they head into that one at 15-2 straight up, 10-7 to the number, and they're going to be back home here in the midst of a second leg of a back-to-back and the third game in 4 days. The Star, on the other hand, they haven't played since June 29th, bringing a 6-day rest advantage into this one with them. They've won 2 of the last 3, but each of those victories came over the Sparks, so nothing to get too excited about. They sit at 5-11 straight up, 8-8 against the spread this year. On the road, Chicago has gone just 3-7 straight up, but 6-4 to the number. It's the first meeting between these two this season, and the Lynx, they swept their head-to-head season series last year. Cardoso, she remains away from the Sky as she's with the Brazilian national team still, but otherwise no new injuries to go over on either side here. The talent disparity, though, between these two, man, it's 1,000 miles long, right? The Lynx sit at first across the board for offensive, defensive, and net rating, with the Sky at 11th for offensive and 12th for both defensive and overall net rating. The thing is, we know the Chicago team, they live in the paint. They thrive on the offensive end, with the now infamous rebounds, second in the league in that respect, and third for second chance points. The Lynx do give up the third most second chance points, and for as elite as they've been in so many areas, the glass isn't necessarily one of them. They are just seventh for opponents' rebounds per game, and they are allowing the third most offensive rebounds per game as well. But where they lack on the glass, man, they make up for with defensive intensity. So we see the Sky scoring the fifth most points from the paint, hitting the fifth most field goals from inside the restricted area. But the thing is, they aren't shooting those by, an efficient means by any means. Dead last for shooting percentage from inside that restricted area. And then the Lynx sit at 6 for field goals allowed from 5 feet out, but give up the third fewest baskets from that 5 to 9 foot range and the fourth fewest points scored from the paint. Minnesota on the offensive end lead the W for shooting percentage, both overall from the field and deep. The Sky allow the second highest shooting percentage overall from the field, and they're giving up the most three-pointers per game at the highest shooting percentage, which is not good news with Minnesota coming to town, right? Everybody on that roster can shoot, man. It's like 1 through 5. They can all get them up, so not what you want to see with this team coming into play. I think Chicago can hang early, though. I think, Minnesota comes out and they like to play around with their food a lot of times anyways. And I do think Chicago can have some success down low, but I think ultimately Minnesota is going to pull away late. So I'm not sure that I want to lay that many points, with the Lynx, have 14.5 points on a back-to-back. Not with how crazy the WNBA has been lately. The Chicago Sky could just come out here and win this thing outright and win it by 20, and we would all just be scratching our heads like, what the hell's going on with the WNBA? But with that said, guys, the Lynx have covered as double-digit favorites now in 6 of 9 attempts this season, including 6 in a row, right? They failed to do so in their first 3 times as a double-digit favorite. They have now done so in 6 straight attempts. The Lynx have hit to the under in 9 of 17 times. When looking at the total, head-to-head, we saw 3 unders last season, but the Sky come into this one as an over team for sure, man. 10 of their 16 games played this season have hit over, including 5 in a row now. Chicago plays at the 4th fastest pace this season, but the Lynx are playing at the 3rd slowest tempo in the W. Sky slipped down to 6th when looking at them on the road as well. Minnesota, they should be able to dictate the pace and style of play in this one, so I would lean under looking at this game. And guys, no player props across the board, man. I looked over all the games. There's just nothing popping out to me right now, so I don't want to force anything. I'll double check everything. I'll look over them again. Maybe something will pop out to me, and if it does, I'll add that into the pinned comment down below. But yeah, nothing that I'm seeing right now. So that is going to wrap it up here for the 3-game slate for Sunday. Hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Hope you found the content helpful and useful. And if you did, please do not forget to smash that like button on your way out. Hit subscribe if you have not already. That's going to do it, man. Hope you guys all cash out. Hope you guys all have a great night and get a little bit of money in your pockets, man. And I'll see you back here tomorrow for the next one.